Former President Trump, in an interview with conservative media personality Candace Owens, pushed back over her claims undermining the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines. In a Wednesday episode of the Daily Wire podcast, Trump told Owens that he takes credit for the, quote, incredible speed of how the vaccines were developed during his time in office in his partnership with private pharmaceutical companies. Trump told Owens, quote, I came up with a vaccine with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years.
I want you to take the note of the date this was posted. It was over a year ago. Yeah. He's been bragging about it for a while.
And welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Well, they finally got Big Orange. You were starting to think it could never happen. How could it happen? Once you accuse a man of racism and fascism and sexism, embezzlement, perjury, sex crimes, mental illness, treason, the last of which, by the way, is a death penalty offense, let us remind you, and then you impeach him twice on related grounds, and
high treason, premeditated murder. The reason I stood down, a Republican state senator told me how they were going to fucking kill you. Continue, Tuck.
After that, you send the FBI to his home to seize a handwritten welcome letter from Barack Obama, which turns out to be a state secret, possession of which is a serious felony. After you do all of that, and they have, you wouldn't think there'd be a lot left to accuse the guy of. You'd think they'd have run out of sins. But no, it turns out there's one left, and it's the big one. The crime of all crimes, an offense so diabolical, so morally repugnant, so contrary to the laws of God and nature, that once revealed to the public, Donald Trump is done forever.
Only you should be.
Darken the door of American democracy. He will slink back in shame to his lair off the 5th tee to prepare for his well-deserved punishment. You won't see him again until sentencing. That's how bad this is. What, ladies and gentlemen, did Donald Trump do? We can now tell you. Donald Trump created the COVID vaccine. He did that himself and on purpose with malice aforethought. The vax is
not on himself, but he sure as hell bragged about it a lot.
It's Donald Trump's doing. We learned that this week from Democrats in Congress. They announced that shocking news. An investigation by the coronavirus subcommittee found, as Politico put it, that the Trump administration pressured the Food and Drug Administration to authorize the first COVID-19 vaccines on an accelerated timeline. Well,
I remember that. I was screaming about it.
Calling this an accelerated timeline. They didn't even fully test the stuff. That's not science. Donald Trump doesn't do science.
No, he didn't. I don't know where you've been, Tuck, but the man in 01 was bragging about the shit.
Trump,
bragging about it
with conservative media personality Candace Owens, pushed back over her claims undermining the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines.
Because it's good, right? Okay, continue, Tuck.
So they just handed this stuff out to people, citizens, recklessly. In the words of South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn, Donald Trump assaulted our nation's public health institutions with this poison, this so-called vaccine, and in doing so, quote, undermined our nation's coronavirus response. That's what Trump did. And here's the worst part. No one knew Trump was doing it. They trusted Donald Trump. He was the president of the United States.
I did.
People believed him when he said the vax worked, especially older people.
I was being very specific about it.
And they wanted to believe that a shot would keep them safe. So they took Donald Trump's word, and then they took the vax. And then a lot of them got COVID anyway. It's horrifying.
I said you would.
Here is one of Donald Trump's elderly victims.
Hey, folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID. But I've been double vaccinated.
Took Donald Trump's vaccine. That man was spry, filled with vigor and vim, famous for his mental acuity. Look at him now. And in case you think, oh, maybe we're overstating the case, maybe this is just a bad video, we're going to take you now to a live shot of that same man to give you some sense of the long-term effects of Donald Trump's vaccine. Here he is speaking.
Once everything in the federal budget voted on de novo, every 5 years it goes out of existence.
Martin you feels for that. Who promoted the vaccine? Who made it mandatory? Wasn't Joe Biden in charge when it became obvious the vaccine
Oh, wait a minute. Now we're talking different president.
didn't work? And didn't Joe Biden's media tell us to get the shot months after Donald
Yeah, mandated.
Trump left office? You may remember that, possibly because you remember clips like this. This was from July of last year.
If you're a school teacher, if you're a nurse, if you're a cop, you need to get vaccinated. And if you don't, you need to look for another job.
Yeah, take the vax or you're fired. In retrospect, it's pretty obvious they were carrying water for Donald Trump in that video. Now, if you're still not convinced, you're probably a cynical person. Probably have concluded the Democrats are panicked about being blamed for the single greatest public health disaster in history.
Everybody
and they're trying to
is.
shift the blame to Donald Trump before the full truth about the vaccine comes out. And it is coming out, and the midterms are on the way. You may have concluded that. But we're not cynical on this show. In fact, we're relieved. Now that Donald Trump is responsible for the vaccine, we can finally talk about the vaccine. So now we haven't been able to. So now it's been like living in a John Cheever story, where the entire country is an emotionally repressed WASP family. It's 1952 in Darien, and Dad is just passed out drunk at the dinner table. But nobody's allowed to mention it. We all have to pretend it's not happening. Dad's fine, be quiet. Over time, that level of denial is very hard to sustain. It makes you crazy. But thank God it's over now. Now that we can blame Donald Trump for the vaccine, we can finally tell the truth about the vaccine without being fired or attacked or thrown off the internet. We really should have thought of this earlier because it feels good, the freedom of it. So let's take a moment to talk about Donald Trump's vaccine and why it seems to be, among other things, dramatically raising death rates among young people. According to data from New Zealand, the government there, for example, children who were vaccinated between the ages of 10 and 19 were more likely, not less likely, more likely to die within a month of vaccination than those who didn't take the vaccine in the same age group. And it's not just the New Zealand government that has found this. This summer, a Dutch researcher called Andre Reder published a paper entitled COVID-19 Vaccinations and All-Cause Mortality. The research analyzed hundreds of cities and towns. What did it find? Quote, we could not observe a mortality-reducing effect of vaccination in Dutch municipalities after vaccination and booster campaigns. We did find a 4 sigma significant mortality-enhancing effect during the 2 periods of high unexplained excess mortality. Oh, so the data suggest, don't prove, but suggest the vaccine may be killing people. Unexplained mortality is also on the rise in many other countries, Australia, England, Wales. So why is Donald Trump's vaccine doing all of this in other countries? Well, we can't be sure. But as Alex Berenson reported on his Substack recently, the Canadian government is seeing a similar problem at huge scale. As of this summer, people who took Donald Trump's vaccine in the Canadian province of Manitoba are roughly 50% more likely than the unvaccinated to be hospitalized or die from COVID. Again, to pause. How bad is Donald Trump's vaccine? So bad that people who take it are more likely to die of COVID. Now, we have data for more Canadian provinces, but they seem to be hiding it now. On July 20th.
What bothers me the most, this is the reason I stepped down as a sitting senator's investigator. I have been personally to the La Junta municipality and was turned away. They kept continuing to do this to my fucking fellow citizens here. And this is all over the globe. You can read these titles. Mark of the Beast. Why did I say it was going to be the Mark of the Beast? You might want to get over here and watch this. You're going to puke if you haven't seen this and how accurate I've been. My own words have been thrown at me every day since I've fucking made these videos. More deadly, easier to catch. People having heart problems. Dropping dead. I'm sick to my soul over this. And the damn censorship that's been done by YouTube is criminal. Absolutely fucking criminal. I figured out mitochondritis in about 15 minutes and put it on a video. And it stayed there because it was a year before anyone got their goddamn shots. Anyone. Now, if this was real, I'd be in front of a damn house testifying. I've been making noise and nothing but getting censored. I had firsthand knowledge of this. And Susan struck my channel down. Susie, you struck my fucking channel for this.
The province of British Columbia announced it would stop reporting the number of deaths that occurred in people who have taken the COVID booster. Wow, why is that? Don't ask, you're not allowed to. Oh, we are now, because it's a Trump crime. The charts are also missing somehow from the Internet Archive, which is widely known, of course, as a front for Russian operatives working on behalf of who? Donald Trump. But we do have the most recent available data. What did those show? Well, they showed that 70% of all deaths in that province occurred in people who are boosted, even though boosted individuals make up just half the province's population. Do the math on that for a minute. Well, your first reaction might be, oh, well, vaccinated and boosted people tend to be older, so of course they're dying at a greater rate. It has nothing to do with the shot. But then you look deeper. You read, for example, the Lancet article entitled Risk of Infection, Hospitalization, and Death Up to 9 months After a Second Dose of the COVID-19 Vaccine. And that piece shows that people over the age of 80 have worse outcomes. And by worse, we mean more hospitalizations, more deaths when they're vaccinated than when they are unvaccinated. So it turns out, when Donald Trump told you, as he did hundreds of times, certainly you must remember this, that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, it turned out to be exactly the opposite. And we're seeing this in a lot of different places, in a lot of different data sets. In fact, as Kenji Yamamoto wrote in the Journal of Virology, quote, the Lancet study showed that immune function among vaccinated individuals 8 months after the administration of 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccine was lower than that among unvaccinated individuals. Well, that sounds like it's hurting people's immune system in a profound way. As the Journal of Food and Chemical Toxicology put it after an independent study, quote,
I was very clear when I showed from the manufacturer's webpage itself that the goddamn first shot was going to administer clinical aids so they could get that live vaccine in you. I warned you, and I got struck for it. You can blame Susan.
Vaccination introduces a profound impairment in type
Or Rick Klein, if you happen to live in La Junta.
1 interferon signaling, which has diverse adverse consequences to human health. That doesn't sound good. What consequences could they be talking about? Well, in July, the German government put out a tweet stating that at least 1 out of every 5,000 COVID shots causes, quote, serious side effects. 1 in 5,000, really? This is a shot that was taken by hundreds of millions of people, including in this country. What effects are we talking about? Well, those would include decreased sperm counts. The journal Andrology reported in June that there was a 22% average drop in total sperm count in samples taken 3 to 5 months after the second Pfizer dose of the vax. Donald Trump's vax. On top of that, there is heart inflammation, myocarditis, which is now.
I told that the first fucking target of a spike protein is going to be your nervous system. Myocarditis is a swelling of the sac around your heart. That is the nerves, the neurons that your memory and your emotions are kept in. No wonder you've been acting fucking crazy.
Now suddenly famous in neighborhoods across the country because everyone seems to know someone else's son who has it. In December of last year, researchers at Oxford found that, quote, myocarditis risk was increased during 1 to 28 days following a 3rd dose of the vaccine. Associations were strongest in males younger than 40 years for all vaccine types. But you knew that because you're seeing it among people you know. And no one's talking about it. We're not allowed to talk about it.
This is criminal from the top to the bottom. The cover-up has been extreme and needs to end. People's lives are at stake, Susan. you're to blame.